Early morning, trying hard to get out of bed. She remembers all the crazy little things she said. Get a move on, gotta be one step ahead. On your feet now, wondering where the road had led. And it's one more minute, and you feel you're in it. Caught up in this thing that we call living. A lot of forgetting and forgiving. I'm letting go, cause it is you I wanna follow. All of the time and circumstances. Call it a game of taking chances. I'm letting go, cause it is you I wanna follow. Hear the music, someone's got the radio on. Oh, the memories, wonder where have all the good times gone. Early morning, a cup of tea and then she's done. Just take a moment, today has only just begun. And it's one more minute, there are no more limits. Yeah, there's one more minute, and you feel you're in it. Caught up in this thing that we call living. A lot of forgetting and forgiving. I'm letting go, cause it is you I wanna follow. All the time and circumstances. Call it a game of taking chances. I'm letting go, cause it is you I wanna follow. Caught in the headlights, I'm feeling alright. You are there with me, and into the moment. All of the time spent with you. Caught up in this thing that we call living. A lot of forgetting and forgiving. I'm letting go, cause it is you I wanna follow. All of the time and circumstances. Call it a game of taking chances. I'm letting go, cause it is you I wanna follow. I'm letting go, cause it is you I wanna follow. I'm letting go, cause it is you I wanna follow.
Hey, welcome to Spiritual Direction and Soul Care Sunday Live every Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern, and we are together again, and we are going through our journey in the Lenten season called Crossing the Desert, and I am super, super excited. So welcome to session 2 of Crossing the Desert, and this whole amazing season. Woke up this morning, daylight savings time. I don't know about you, but I'm seeing everybody online complaining about it. But it's a pretty chill day, and woke up this morning and it was snowy and overcast, and now it is all gone, and again, blue skies and puffy clouds, and I love it. So even if you're watching on the replay, just say hello in the chat, tell us where you're from, and tell us how your week's been going as we get ready to dive in to Crossing the Desert Part 2. Crossing the Desert Part 2. So, Crossing the Desert, here we are. I wanted to start with a question, and we'll come back to this question again, just to get the mind kind of going. What parts of your life do you see that you let fear frame your reality, or frame how you see other people, or even yourself? What parts of your life do you let fear frame reality? Or you see others through the filter of fear, or even yourself. Think about that. Let's kind of percolate on that as we get ready to dive in today with what we're looking at. So here we are on the second Sunday of Lent, and I wanted to read the assigned gospel reading. So, as you know, the Jesus story is a big part of what drives the season of Lent. This season where we pause and reflect and we think about what's working and what isn't working for us in our lives. Um, we do a deep dive of introspection. Maybe we double down on our spiritual practices, our mental health, whatever it is that we're doing. You've heard people talk about a lot about what they give up for Lent. But like like to say, I think Lent needs to be more about making space for more of what we need and love and care about. So if laying aside some things is what helps you do that, great. Um, but it's not worth getting caught up in like super heavy discipline if it's just making you feel burdened, right? It's all about finding spaciousness and coming into a deeper understanding of self and life and the things that truly matter, right? Presence that is what we really want and need. So that's what Lent is. So as we look at Luke 13 today, that's the reading today. And it's some people, some religious teachers, right, coming and talking to Jesus. And so let's listen to what it says in Luke 13. Okay. At that time, some religious teachers came and said to him, "Get away from here, for the king wants to kill you." And Jesus said to them, "Go and tell that fox for me. Listen, I'm casting out demons and performing cures today and tomorrow, and on the third day I finish my work. Yet today and tomorrow and the next day I must be on my way, because it is impossible for a prophet to be killed outside of Jerusalem." And then he says, "Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to it. How often have I desired to gather your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you weren't willing. So see, your house is left empty. And I tell you, you will not see me until the time comes when you say, 'Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord.'" So as we prepare to kind of reflect on this together and what it means for the journey of crossing in the desert seasons of our life, let's just kind of go to renew our connection to those basic spiritual practices of breath and stillness. We're going to do some grounding exercises again. We haven't done this in a while. But I got some feedback saying that this might be a good idea to reconnect with. This is important, especially in this season. So let's do that together. And let's just simply breathe. Let your shoulders drop. If you need to close your eyes or focus kind of middle distance, breathe in. Release everything you come with, everything that's weighing you down. Just lay it aside for a moment and breathe. Let's open ourselves to compassion. Let's receive a moment of peace, even in this world that seems so on the edge. Even as we think of the conflict on the other side of the globe in Ukraine, let us receive peace within ourselves as we breathe. And let's direct our hope for peace toward those who are suffering. Let's simply hold a space, a moment of silence for them as we breathe. Let's become aware how that breath fills our bodies. Let's be present to this moment. Releasing all that we cannot control. Opening ourselves to this moment, to reality. Laying aside fear. Amen. So here we are, crossing the desert, second week of Lent. Luke 13 starts with words that say that these religious teachers have come to Jesus and said, "Get out of here, for the king wants to kill you." For the king wants to kill you. Isn't that interesting? These religious teachers were the rivals of Jesus. They wanted to offer an alternate way of seeing the world and reality, an alternate understanding of life than what Jesus was giving. They were threatened by it. And it's interesting that they use the idea of fear to try to throw him off track. Oh, you need to get out of here. Someone's going to try to destroy you. So many times in our lives, fear or the threat of fear or the warning of fear, right, sends us away from our true purpose. It derails our understanding of ourselves because we start to believe what other people are saying. You could see this. I was talking with a colleague this week. You see this in church world a lot, right? Sometimes religion will be used to create fear in the followers so that then the church or the religion can be the source of the solution, right? The comfort. Many times people will wound us to then try to be the person who gets to comfort us, right? To make themselves indispensable to us, right? And other times people imply or use fear to just throw us off or to get us away, like they aren't coming because they care about Jesus and his well-being, right? And so what happens? Jesus has clarity about what he's there to do. He doesn't let what other people say is reality determine for him who he is, right? That's why I asked at the beginning of this, what parts of your life do you let fear frame reality or your understanding of yourself or other people, right? But Jesus is really clear in this story. He's like, I'm doing this kind of work. I'm liberating people. I'm healing people. I'm calling people into wholeness. That's what I'm doing today. That's what I'm doing tomorrow, right? He speaks clearly, like, I'm not going to be thrown off. I'm not going to be thrown off because you're using fear, right, to try to make me doubt my purpose, make me doubt who I am, make me doubt the path that I know I'm supposed to be on. See? It's fascinating. It's fascinating to me. And what would it look like for the part of your life that you let fear frame your understanding of yourself, your reality, other people, right? What would it look like for that part of your life to be grounded in the actual reality of who you are, to be grounded in what you actually know and have experienced, right? Sometimes we respond to fear quickly, right? And we give ground to fear because we haven't taken the time to reflect on who we are and what we value. Like if somebody said, do you have the clarity of purpose? See how clarity of purpose overcomes fear. So if somebody said to you, do you have the clarity of purpose that Jesus had, right? Do you know what you're about? Some of us can't consciously describe the way we want to live. We can't name what we value or or even have a strong sense of who we are. And that's why oftentimes desert seasons can become an opportunity. As unpleasant as they are, they can become an opportunity to be clear about who we are, to discover in the absence of the things that we treasure, value, need, a better understanding of who we are and what we need and what we treasure and what we want to be about, the kind of life we want to live. See? So even the desert can be a gift. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. But so many of us can't consciously describe the way we want to live, what we value, who we are. And so we're carried along by life. We let other people come and say, something bad's going to happen, or this is how it is, or whatever. And we just let them decide for us, right? And so we're carried along by life, and we never stop to ask ourselves if any of this is what we really want, if any of this is consistent with who we are and what we know about who we are, right? Are we living the life that was handed to us or demanded from us? Because some strange combination of family baggage and social pressures and different kinds of trauma, whether it's religious trauma or health trauma or adverse childhood experiences and on and on and on. Are we living the life that was handed to us or demanded to us, or have we dropped and then it's dropped us in a place where we find ourselves? Is life happening to us, right? Because we let other people use fear to throw us off course. Well, as we reflect, as we use the desert moments to reflect on these moments, we realize that we don't have to stay there. I don't have to stay there. I don't have to stay in that space driven by fear. I don't have to doubt myself. I don't have to doubt the path that flows from who I am and who I'm meant to be. And neither do you. Neither do you. Absolutely, neither do you. Okay. So what does your life look like when it's not rooted in fear? Just think about it. What would your life look like when it's not rooted in fear? What do you really want? What do you really want? Okay. So Jesus was clear on what he was about and who he was and what he wanted to do. And he wasn't going to let anyone move him off of that. And see, this is really key because there are desert seasons in life. Right? And clarity about who we are and what we want, our deepest purpose that we have chosen and created for ourselves. This is a source of profound strength then when we find ourselves, for whatever reason, in the deserts of life. Right? That's it, right? I love how Jesus would not accept the assignment of fear from people that he knew actually didn't have his best interests at heart. Right? People who are compromised by their own ambition, their own need to control, their own need to be right, their own need to make sure that nobody else is living differently than the way they want to approve them to live, right? And instead of being like, oh, well, maybe they're right, he gets ticked, right? And he's like, nah. You go tell anybody who's trying to threaten my purpose, right? That this is what I'm doing, right? He was unapologetic. He was clear. So he wouldn't be saddled with this anxiety, saddled with being led astray, right? He didn't let anybody else determine that for himself. I love this story. I love what it tells us about Jesus. And, like last week I talked about how, like, as we walk through the desert, we have to remember that we are not alone, right? That it's a very profound human experience and that we're not alone, and that we go through it um, with the presence of God, right? Go through it with the whole accumulation of all the humans who have gone through it and overcome. Yes, and that is our resources and our birthright too. And now, as we take another step into this journey, we're learning that, these kind of like more high level things of just like the desert is also an opportunity. The desert is a place for us to clarify, discover, or deepen what we already know and double down on who we know we are meant to be, and to be particularly aware of the voices around us that would try to throw us off course and throw us off track and get us to forget ourselves. You see, Jesus shows us this clarity about ourselves, and the desert is this opportunity as we go through the season to either discover or deepen what we know. Yes. What's interesting too, though, is how Jesus later in this short reading speaks of the city of Jerusalem, right? Which is really just symbolic of any system rooted in fear and anxiety, right? That could be a family system. That could be the institution you work at, or the office space that you work at because the boss is super anxious or controlling. It could be your whole religion. It could be any number of systems, right? That resist the actual things that they need. And Jesus basically says, if you continue on that course, I want to continue. I know what I'm about. I'm here to liberate and heal, to help people find and discover themselves in the most deepest, truest sense of who they are and what they're meant to be so that they can flourish. But if this system that people find security in, right, because they're driven by fear, instead of rejecting fear, they just leave the fear in place, but get a system there, whatever that anxious system is, to help be a defense against it instead of getting to the root of the issue, right? People will buy into systems that actually keep them from the healing that they actually need. And he says, if that's what you want, then that house, that place of living, that way of living, it's left to you empty. And the word there, empty, is the same word that's used to describe the desert. The house itself this way of living, this system, this anxious, fear-driven system that cuts itself off from the actual thing it really needs and wants, is going to leave you empty. It ultimately is a dead end. And even in that, that's grace. That's grace, because at some point, like if you're in the recovery world, that's rock bottom, right? At some point, everything stops working and you're going to get into the actual desert of clarity, right? The desert that clarifies and helps you see and come to face with what you really want and what you really need, helps you come face to face with all the ways you used fear and anxiety and social pressures and social perception to avoid coming to the end of yourself and really discovering who you are, good, bad, and ugly. See, that's part of the reason why so many of us are driven by fear and anxiety, because we have such a hard time of coming to terms with the fact that a lot of what we discover about ourselves in the desert isn't fun. It's not all great. Nobody's perfect, right? And if we're driven by shame, we can't come to terms with or accept anything about ourselves that might be shadowy or hard, But this is also part of the beauty of the desert, is we come to accept fully ourselves and all the dimensions of who we are. And people who have walked through the desert and have done this for themselves are always able to accept others, even when they can't accept themselves, right? 9 times out of 10, I think that the person who is radically accepting of another person or the people that are around you are people who have done at least some of the deep inner work of coming to terms with just who they are and knowing who they are, good, bad, and ugly, accepting their limitations and letting it be. Understanding that they don't have to beat themselves up or shame themselves for being a human being, being a complicated, growing, changing, person, right? Who has weaknesses and foibles and faults, right? And in the grand scheme of it, those weaknesses and foibles and faults aren't really that big of a deal, and they aren't these huge things. They're just part of the picture. I love this text. I love this text. Because it just is, it's so multi-layered, right? So tell me what you think. Whether you're watching now or on the replay, what parts of your life do you let fear or anxiety frame your reality? How do you let fear and anxiety, and let's say even say shame, shape your understanding of yourself, right? Who or what are the voices of fear for you? Is it the voice of the religion you were brought up in? Is it the voice of your parents? Maybe that significant relationship that really ended up hurting you and messing you up. I don't know. What are those voices? Why do you listen to those voices? What would it look like for your life to be grounded, not in the realities or the claims of what other people say things should be, but in what you truly know and want for yourself? What does life look like when you live the way you truly desire? Out of the true center of who you are, with all that you are, in the complicated, beautiful mess that each one of us is. What would that look like today? That's my question for us. That's something to think about as we walk through this strange desert season of our lives here in 2022, as it seems like everything's still kind of crazy, you know. So let me know what you think. Put something in the chat. Tell me what you think here. I'm seeing some comments here. Let me see. We have, oh man, I was on the wrong page, and we got lots of awesome comments here. All right, it's easy to have fear during seasons of change. That is so true. It is so easy to have fear during seasons of change, because it kind of strikes right at the heart and soul, right, of what we assume how things are working for us. Yeah. What else? Someone says, thank you for this. Realizing that fear is an attempt to distract you from your joy, purpose, and truth is so important. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So that's the thing. We have to, instead of, when things that inspire fear in us, it kind of overpowers our minds, right? It kind of like short circuits everything, and we go, that's the reality. We get into that, fight or flight or freeze kind of space. But the power that we have is that we can recognize it and go, no. And then when there is a fear driven response, we really pump the brakes. Like, look at Jesus. Like, Jesus gets ticked, right? He's like, absolutely not. I'm not doing that. You tell those people, they can't stop me from being me, Here's another good one. It says, I've had a fear of uncontrolled change from a young age. I am to this day consistently thrown off if something unexpected happens. This applies to things that are good too. If a career opportunity presents itself, my brain is wired to flood. I don't see the rest of the let's see here. Flood with all the what ifs and things that would make it difficult. Right. See, like, fear shuts down our possibility thinking. It shuts down our vision. It shuts down our ability to, really go after what we know we want and is good for us. And deep down at the end of the day, like, because we all are here, like, what's good for what is truly good for you is good for me. Right. And what's truly good for me is good for you. And it's like fear creates disconnection, right? It creates disconnection. It borrows from tomorrow. It creates false realities, right? And it teaches us to doubt the reality that we've experienced and lived in, you know? Here's another one. Sitting with your question, here's some transparency. This little whisper comes to me during this transition. You're not qualified enough or disciplined enough to go forward in this idea. You have to become a teaching para. The other day, I struggled to read a few lines in a book, and that fear came in the whisper. You can't even read correctly or fluently. How can you teach kids? What a terrible blockage, hey? And you're right. I don't have to doubt myself because I genuinely believe in my path. My life would look forward if I break down this blockage. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being transparent and sharing that. My life not rooted in fear is reality versus the fiction that I allow my mind to create. Yes. Yes. Here's another one. Yes, people who tell you you should be afraid to do what you know in your heart you were born to do are usually jealous. Yes. Or, sometimes they're not always jealous, but they're, I think, also just wanting to control other people because I think a lot of folks have been taught that control is love, you know, control is love. But instead, we're being called to double down on who we know we're supposed to be, right? Right? Have you guys seen this movie Turning Red that just came out a couple days ago? Lovely story. And that's also about people discovering a part of themselves and then leaning into that and not letting people tell you that who you are is a problem, right? Here's another one. Outer systems as religious security aisles protect you from freedom and direct relationship with the God within that never abandons you. I love that. And another person said, definitely still have fear of disappointing my parents. I'm working on it. Oh, yeah. And, so much of parenting work, and I know Jill can attest to this, like so much of parenting work is trying to figure out when not to be a parent, right? To understand that we're like raising adults, not children. And that they're going to they're going to be their own persons and we're going to impart certain values to them, but they're going to have to discover also what works for them and flows out of what is right for them and their own sense of agency, their own sense of what they believe to be the best path for them. It's really really hard. Like parenting is so hard. It's so hard. Like, oh my gosh. I was just like, we were lied to. It's not easy. Oh man, yes. So, great comments, great thoughts. I really want us as we step further and further and deeper into really intentionally looking at the desert moments of our life, whether you're literally in one right now, or if you're aware of you're going into one, or you just come out of one, this is just a regular occurrence in our lives, right? And I want us to be able to really have these kind of big picture understandings first, that we are not alone as we go through the desert. This is a normal thing that human beings do. We're not the first to do it. Humans all around us might be experiencing a lot of what I'm experiencing, you're experiencing at any given moment. So we're never alone. And this is an opportunity for us to not take our cues from everything going on around us, but to let the environment of the desert call us inward, call us to look deeper within ourselves at who we truly are and what we truly want, what we truly long for, what we're truly made to be and do, and to double down and to pursue it. You'll not only do yourself a favor, but it's that whole thing we talked about a few weeks ago, right? Like, don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive, because what the world needs are people who come alive. And so this is the, that's a great idea in abstract, but it's in the desert seasons where that actually starts to happen, where we see it happen for us all, where we learn to see it, right? Where it actually becomes apparent. We do the discovery in the desert. We have another comment here real quick from, I believe, Judy. Well, what does it say here? My mother, who at times was mentally unwell, would basically punish me for success and independence. It took me a long time to realize that uneasy feeling, that fear whenever I forgot my worries and was happy, was based on being raised in fear of manifesting my true self. My heart goes out to the person who said they have a fear of happiness and success, but once one figures out that fear is a distraction and a lie, like Christ, you can say no and let yourself spring forward towards even greater potential happiness and joy. Judy, here you are once again. I love this community, so full of wisdom. What a blessing, y'all. I think that's an incredible way to sum up what we are getting at. I love it. I absolutely love it. And don't change your dreams to fit your current reality. Change your current reality to fit your dreams. Your dreams are from God. Yes, from the deep eternal well of light within you that is with you always. This is what Jesus shows us about reality, about who God is and how God works. Fantastic time together. See, some of y'all thought crossing the desert was going to be all dreary and everything, but look at it. The desert experience can actually be an empowering experience. It's something that in itself we should not fear, right? Don't fear the desert, even if it's inconvenient and annoying. I was watching we're watching an old season of Amazing Race, and they had a challenge that they had to do in the middle of the desert, and it just looks miserable, right? But that's how the desert is. The desert is an opportunity, right? And it is a place of discovery, and we can do it. All right, y'all. What a great time to be together again today. I love connecting as we talk about crossing the desert here, and I can't wait to dive in for the next couple more weeks of Lent as we get into some more practical stuff. Like, kind of did some high level, like big picture things to remember and know about the desert, but we're going to start diving into some more of the practical things, some of the practices and ways that the desert invites us to do more of that discovery work, right? That more of that inner reflection posture work, so that we can be empowered and to grow and to transform and to become more and more what we are meant to be. So good to be together as always, and have a great week. Let us know how we can support you guys. Also, invite friends. If you're on Facebook, invite your friends to come join Spiritual Direction and Soul Care's Facebook page. That's a great space where you guys can connect with each other. Say hello. Come on over there. Tell us how you're doing. Tell us all the ways that we can be supporting you, praying for you, sending love and good vibes to one another, and all of that. So come on over, invite your friends, join the Facebook group, and as always too, you can go to spiritualdirectionsoulcare.com and learn about our soul care program, soul care sessions with me. It's a great way to get some extra support, as well as connect and go deeper in that really intentional way of self-reflection and discovery, getting an imagination for transformation. And that's what we're always doing, even on Sunday Live, as we go deeper into crossing the desert. And we're going to be learning some insanely practical tools for the spiritual life. So it is going to be awesome. Love you guys so much. Have a great week, and we'll see you next Sunday.